out to Socrates. Socrates still trying to get the opening. Oh, Socrates! Whoa!
And there it is. The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. Your boys took a hell of a beating.
Your boys took a hell of a beating. This is our continuation of the 1979-80 revisited subsection modules. We are up to subsection module 1.13. Dave, it's skipping along at quite a pace. Christmas is looming. We have 2 paragraphs for this one. Some first division entertainment, followed by the second division for paragraph 2. Paragraph 1, Dave, it's we'll call this L team of the 80s ago. Anfield. It's the visit of Terry Venables and his high-flying, soaring Eagles, Dave. Crystal Palace head to Anfield to take on Liverpool for I think probably yet another manager here saying it's the ultimate test.
Cliches at the ready for Terry Venables as he comes into this one. It's hard to imagine it's December. It only seems like last week when it was August, which, given the way we're doing the podcast, it was. Good to see Terry Venables. He's got himself kitted out, a lovely red knitted cardigan he's got on there to go with his suede jacket.
It's a very pragmatic yet stylish approach there as well. I think John, if it had been the BBC covering this game, then John Motson would be highly approving.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's got his red jacket, his red cardigan on there, presumably to win the Liverpool fans over. But no, you can see he's right from the outset. However well his team's doing, you can see there's concern about Terry Venables as he approaches Anfield.
There is a sense of foreboding almost. He's laughing away. He's charm personified. He is, on the Terry Venables Richter scale. He's way up there at 10. He's schmoozing brilliantly. He's going on about the city of Liverpool and how they support their team, and all that type of stuff. He is on a massive charm offensive, yet it's all utterly effortless, Dave. It's just Terry Venables being Terry Venables prior to kick.
Yeah, I've never really made my mind up about Terry Venables. I mean, his reputation seems hugely inflated given what he actually won as a manager, and yet so many people talk so highly about him as a thinker about the game and all of that sort of stuff. And then there's Terry Venables, the personality, and as we saw in the game against Man City a couple of paragraphs ago, it's very hard to take against Terry Venables, because he has got that sort of effortless charm. He could have been an actor or, Terry Wogan or something, I suppose, in another life. But he's giving it. You can see that in our previous paragraph, Jim Cannon was saying that Crystal Palace can win the league, and you can see that he's thinking he shouldn't have said that the week before we were going to Liverpool. This is a big mistake. So he's getting his not retaliation. I'm not quite sure what the word is, but he's getting it in early, whatever it is he's doing. Making his excuses, I suppose, nice and early.
He is. He absolutely is. Win, lose or draw, Terry Venables wins on the pre-match chat that he's having with Gerald Sinstad in this one. Footage taken from the kick-off match, the glorious kick-off match. Liverpool, it's the usual 11 at this point in time, Dave. Rattled it off in several paragraphs thus far. Clements, Neil, Alan Kennedy, Thompson as captain, Ray Kennedy, Hanson, Dalglish, Case, Johnson, McDermott, Souness, with Highway, the selected substitute for this one. David Fairclough again given the road to play for the reserves. And I'm sure next week when Liverpool are on the road in the first team, David Fairclough will again be on the road to be number 12, that one, where Steve Highway gets to stay home every week. Crystal Palace, it's Burridge, Hinchelwood, Sanson, Nicholas, Cannon, Gilbert, Jerry Murphy with a J, Jerry Francis with a G, Ian Walsh, Dave Swindlehurst, Vince Hiller, Terry Fenwick is the substitute. Mike Flanagan is deemed to be fit again after his hamstring problems, but Venables opts for an unchanged lineup after the previous Saturday's victory. As mentioned, at home to Nottingham Forest. Please do go back to that paragraph mentioned and head to YouTube to see the manner of the goal that Peter Shilton ships in that one. It's an absolute work of art. and it's in there. Our boys, your boys took a hell of a beatings Hall of Fame, along with the ball boy at Selhurst Park, who gets tripped within his own toilet roll / raffle ticket, which is just an absolute piece of magic. Dave, this is just like Liverpool. We mentioned in the last paragraph Nottingham Forest setting out at Selhurst Park to make an example of Crystal Palace, this upstart of a team that's been, at this point in time, billed as more likely challengers to Liverpool for the title than Manchester United are. There's a lot of belief in this Crystal Palace side, both seemingly within Selhurst Park, the players, the manager, but also out. The noises that the commentators are making in terms of Crystal Palace, articles that are in the newspapers, they really buy into this Palace side, and it's hard to see why not at this point in time. I mean, it's stunning what's to come, but at this point in time, they really do look like the real deal.
They're playing some really decent football. They've got an exciting young team. They're playing some exciting stuff. Vince Hilaire's catching the eye in particular. You've got Jerry Francis, who was, formerly the England captain. So there's a lot of talk about him. You've got John Burridge making a bid for the Hall of Fame with his pre-match calisthenics, a circus act, according to Gerald Sinstadt, which is a bit harsh. But I mean, in retrospect, looking from this distance, good as Crystal Palace were and exciting as they were, and a new face on the block as they were, it does seem remarkable that they were considered more likely to win the league than a Forest or a Manchester United, to give Liverpool a proper challenge, because it was their first season at that kind of level. The First Division is legendarily an unforgiving league. I mean, it's a hard battle over 42 games at that point. It's all very well being up the top after 15, 16. I mean, it's a whole other deal to be there after 42. So I think there was probably a bit of overhype with Palace, and that all refers back to Terry Venables. I mean, people, particularly in the press, obviously all big mates with Terry Venables, and that sort of promoted Palace a bit higher up the pecking order. In the long term, I don't think it did them any good. They would have been better off to just be allowed to, develop their own way, I think, rather than being in the glare of the publicity right from, such an early stage. Because they were a good team, and there was a lot of development left in it, and that development never really happened in the end for all sorts of reasons, players leaving and whatever. But I think they were just too much under the spotlight at this point, and particularly too much under the spotlight going to Liverpool. You don't want to be going to Anfield with people saying, "Oh, well, you're going to be the team that takes the crown." That is absolutely not what you want to be doing in 1979. No.
And within that, going back to the concept of the established wanting to make an example, Nottingham Forest deeming themselves part of that establishment, now themselves only out into the first division from 77 on their return, relegated 72, back 77, and everything that they went and did, just how swiftly they become deemed part of the establishment. There's Crystal Palace trying to do likewise, but here's Liverpool very much in, actually, we'll show you what the established order is here, lads. And there is a defined, effortless, but also motivated will to set an example from the home side in this game.
To be fair to Palace, they hang on pretty well in the first half, but Liverpool are on top. I mean, from what we see on the highlights, virtually the entire game is played in the Crystal Palace half of the pitch, and it is a question of Palace hanging on rather than giving as good as they get, kind of thing. I mean, right at the start of the highlights, Jim Cannon, there he was saying we're going to win the league, immediately gives the ball away, and David Johnson has a shot from distance, well saved, low down. There's a corner, Liverpool go all the way back to the halfway line and then attack again. Alan Kennedy shoots, there's another Burridge save. Burridge makes another save from a Jimmy Case free kick. I mean, it's one-way traffic, absolute one-way traffic. And, the goalkeeper's making some decent saves. Palace are working overtime to just stay desperately in the game. But, this is Liverpool absolutely going about their business. This is, putting the marker down and saying, right, well, you're not going to win the league. So, right, who else might do it then? Because it's not going to be you.
Yeah, I mean, Souness hits the side netting. There's a great Liverpool move. Alan Kennedy had a fantastic back heel from Dalglish. Jimmy Case at this point in time. There's several instances of Jimmy Case doing some magnificent Jimmy Case things in this the first half of this season. That thunderbolt of a shot, that determination, but that steeliness that he's got. He falls under the radar for people outside the Liverpool supporting bubble, Jimmy Case, but he is a man in fine form at this point in time.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose in that midfield, you are going to be the one that doesn't get noticed amongst, Ray Kennedy, Graham Souness, Teddy McDermott, doing all those amazing things. But Jimmy Case was such a good player and such an important part of the whole thing. I mean, he could do everything. He could score goals. He could win tackles. He could pass the ball. He could take corners. He could, everything. And as you say, he's one of those who missed out on not just missed out on the spotlight. He missed out on playing for England and all that sort of stuff as well, which he could very easily have done. He could very easily got 10, 15, 20 caps in and around the late 70s, early 80s. But as you say, I mean, he's all over the place again in this one. And, as I said, that free kick that he blasts in. And ultimately, it's Jimmy Case who gets things moving for Liverpool just before half time. And when the goal goes in, Crystal Palace, all the players have got their heads in their hands because we're just coming into injury time. And you've got to half time at 0-0. You've done half the job. You're all really excited, and then you've buggered it up in the last 10 seconds, and that's it. That's the game gone.
It is. It's a tough, and they have weathered hell of a storm. I mean, that free kick from Jimmy Case almost takes John Burridge's hand into the cup along with it. It's hit with such power. And then you've got the resultant corner, Ray Kennedy header, Thompson wide. There's panic in that, more panic in that Palace defence as well. There's a slip from Murphy, McDermott cross, Johnson just wide. There's chance after chance after chance. There's goal line scrambles. There's Dalglish is close. Kennedy, is unremitting as well in his closing down of Kenny Sanson. Because Ray Kennedy drifts to the right at some parts of this. We've mentioned before about this total football element to it, of what Liverpool are doing, that interchanging of positions. And Ray Kennedy's nominally left-sided midfield, but he's absolutely everywhere at times. But yeah, there's even another save shortly before the goal from Alan Kennedy. A goal kick given when it should be a corner. It's a great one for the circus act there of John Burridge. You'd think that if Burridge lives up to kind of like his budgie persona, he should be insisting on that being a corner, himself. And if he'd have done so, then he would have been going straight into the All Boys Took Hell of a Beating Hall of Fame. But yes, the goal comes. It's a fine move. The ball switched. It's Johnson. He crosses from the right. It's Case with a glancing header. There's some great intelligence from David Johnson again. These understated but fantastic performances from David Johnson. He's left, he's right, he's centre. And it is just approaching injury time, and it's a sucker punch for Palace, Dave.
Yeah, you're right about David Johnson. I mean, he hits the post a little bit earlier on.
Yes,
but I mean, we've picked him out several times across the course of the season. I mean, in this season thus far, up to the December, he's probably as important as any player. In that Liverpool team. Whether it be Teddy McDermott, Kenny Dalglish, whoever it is, David Johnson's having an absolutely fantastic season, which all culminated in getting back in the England team. Going to the Euros and stuff. It's a great Liverpool move. It opens Palace up. They can't quite cope with it. And as I say, here you are in injury time, of which there was very little in those days compared to what we know and love these days. But they think they've done it. They think they've got to the break, and there's Jimmy Case, a nice little glancing header into the top corner from David Johnson's cross, and all that 45 minutes of hard work has just gone down the toilet, and it's a disaster. And I mean, if I could have heard Jerry since that commentary at the start of the second half, they would be feel even worse. I mean, here we are, the weekend before Christmas, pretty much. And Gerald since that says, and here we are, coming to the end of the 1970s. Liverpool have lost 13 times at home in the entire decade. Right.
It really is quite a startling fact that he just drops into his commentary there. It is one you think, why didn't you say that to Venables before the game? That if anything was going to wipe the smile off his face, and it was a big broad smile, prior to the match, then that would have been it, or it would have just made him laugh, to be fair. But yeah, Palace, it's been a white knuckle ride in the first half, so close to going in a goalless against the odds. Second half, clearly Venables has kind of given some kind of team talk that intimates, we're only one down, lads. It could, come on, we can still get something out of this game. There's a great moment early in the second half where Palace are trying to play the ball out of defence. Don't go thinking that's a modern concept. Here's Terry Venables trying to do it in December 1979 away at Liverpool, who've lost only 13 times on home soil throughout the 1970s. It's bold, it's brash, and soon enough it's 2-0. It's Dalglish with the control and finish, cool as you like. He kind of chips the ball to the left of Burridge, who's despairing trying to get across. It's one of these kind of like gravity-defying kind of... It's one of these dink goals that Dalglish was so famous for. Yeah, how he does it and where he does it from, it's a bit bewildering, Dave.
As the move, well, it's not even a move really. It starts with a Jimmy Case corner that he hits so hard he nearly takes David Johnson's head off as he's trying to head it back into the box. And Jim Cannon heads the ball up into the air, and Dalglish gets on the end of it. He kind of squirms past two defenders, and he's running away from goal. And in the action of running away from goal, he somehow managed to still turn, chip the ball right across the face of goal into the far corner. John Burridge is scrambling after it in slow motion, but can't get it. And that's 2-0 after 49 minutes. It's one of those physics-defying goals from Dalglish, except he'd do that about 10 times a season. So you kind of took it for granted, really. There's a frame just before that at the start of the second half where Jerry Murphy's just inside the Liverpool half, and there's only him and Vince Hilaire in the frame of the picture, and there's 7 red shirts, and that's what it was like. That was what it was like going to Anfield. Well, it was like playing Liverpool anyway, but particularly going to Anfield, they're just ferocious. They're just chasing. Nowadays it's a press and it's a God knows what. It's what teams used to do then. They used to close them down. But Liverpool were the best team in the country, in Europe, in the world, probably, at doing that. They just outnumbered you. But ordinarily you think, well, okay, there's 2 of us in this frame and there's 7 of them, so there must be some space for us somewhere. Except there never was. Because even if you did manage to get the ball out of that frame, all of a sudden, whoever you got it to, there'd be 7 shirts around him as well. That was what Liverpool were at that point. They just completely smothered you out of the game. You had no chance of playing.
Yeah, the energy that Liverpool play with is remarkable. Gerald Sinstad declares that Dalglish's goal is a mixture of cheek and genius. Jimmy Case and David Johnson's part in this team, and them being understated. But I think even within the Liverpool supporting bubble, Johnson falls under the radar because of what Ian Rush will come on and do. Jimmy Case, because it's Souness, it's McDermott, it's Ray Kennedy, the other components of that incredible midfield. So there's a lot of light to be shared in that, and Jimmy Case loses quite a lot of it as well, wrongly really. Gerald Sinstad as well, with a line such as it's with cheek and genius. He's another commentator that falls under the radar, a bit like Hugh Johns, but Hugh Johns gets his quartet of World Cup finals to commentate on and all of that. Gerald Sinstad as a commentator is he's quite that era. All the commentators are bespoke. Exactly who it is as soon as they open the mouth. And Gerald Sinstad is another of these that he commentates on some incredible, from a Liverpool sporting perspective alone, some incredible teams and eras. Yeah, he is Granada's commentator through the entirety of the 1970s. He covers some incredible games. He's the man behind the microphone on the day that Man United are relegated at home to Manchester City in '74. He's the man behind the microphone as Liverpool come back and beat Saint-Etienne in that European Cup quarter-final in '77. He's the man behind the microphone in '82 for ITV when West Germany and France go at it in Seville. But he falls massively under the radar in that huge lexicon of that era's commentators, Dave.
He does. I suppose the ITV commentators had it a bit more difficult because you would get your commentator, wouldn't you? In let's just say for you it was Gerald Sinstad, for me it was Hugh Johns, and then it was Brian Moore in the south and whatever. Whereas every match of the day, you always got Barry Davies and John Motson every week. And for us, we would get Hugh Johns for 40 minutes of Star Soccer, and then we get 5 minutes of Brian Moore and 3 minutes of Gerald Sinstadt. So I suppose they didn't really get the same chance to build up the national recognition, that Motson and Davies did. I mean, he was the commentator from our perspective for the 5-3 Albion win at Manchester United, and not only was that a great game, but fair play to Gerald Sinstadt. He pointed out the racist abuse that the United were giving Cyril Regis and Brendan Batson, Laurie Cunningham, which was a rare thing to do in those days. Not very many commentators ever sort of said anything about that. They kind of, I presume they were given the instructions not to play up to it, but he pointed that out, and he was a terrific. It is, I don't know. Again, I'm loath to say because you just sound like an old git moaning all the time, but you tune if you come into match of the day halfway through and there's a game on, it's very difficult to know who that commentator is. They all kind of sound the same.
There is an identikit nature to contemporary commentators.
Yeah. I mean, I presume, they're all trained by the same people or whatever, I don't know. But, back then they were all very distinct, and some you liked, some you didn't, whatever it was. But you knew who they were, you knew who it was who was talking, even whether it was people who only did it very rarely, like Alan Weeks or Tony Gubber or whatever, you knew who they all were. And now it's very difficult, I think, to discern between any of them.
It is. It really is. And onwards as commentary goes, he's magnificent again in this game. As are Liverpool. Liverpool don't let up at 2-0. They're on the break again. Budge saves with his legs. A fine move involving Johnson and McDermott. There's a Thompson header at a corner that's deflected over. Souness with a flick hook and volley from the very next corner. It gets to a point where it's another Liverpool exhibition type of performance, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, you get to that point and Palace can't get out. They just cannot get out of their own final third. The passing is all over the place. And you can see the belief has just ebbed completely away from them. I mean, they are now just hanging on desperately, waiting for the final. So they can't wait to get out of Anfield by this point, having come in with all that talk behind them. And here we are, about an hour into the game. And it's turned into an absolute nightmare. There was also just around that point the chant that was always really popular in those days. They would suddenly break out a Celtic Rangers.
Yeah,
most clubs did that. I've never understood.
Yeah.
Really, but
yeah, now I remember those well.
By the by, didn't they, over the years?
They did. I remember them well. The Liverpool, Celtic half and half bobblats, and there'd be a few Rangers ones here and there and stuff like that. But yeah, the Celtic Rangers chants going on. Yeah, I remember them well. Soon enough, 3-0. Ray Kennedy down the left, McDermott and Johnson queuing up. McDermott gets in ahead of him. Johnson around mid second half, midway through the second half, and even Liverpool, I think they then take the foot off. Well, not take the foot off, but there's still chances. Hansen strides forward. Case almost makes it 4. Burridge is really kind of like being tested to the limit here. There's a clearance from Hinchelwood. A Swindlehurst shot. Finally, a Palace opportunity with a Swindlehurst shot saved by Clements. Burridge saves from Dalglish. Magnificent through ball from McDermott again. Alan Hansen's not letting up. He picks up a yellow card for clattering through Murphy. This isn't Liverpool taking the foot off the pedal, Dave. This is just like a fourth goal doesn't quite come to the point that Nicholas eventually hits the Liverpool crossbar from distance. This isn't one of those. I remember watching a lot of Liverpool games in that era, and if they were 3-0 up midway through the second half, it would just become pre-season fodder where it's just rolling the ball around and party pieces and little bursts of speed here and there. But they've kind of given up on the concept of adding more goals. But this isn't one of those that day. If Liverpool could have gone and got 4 or 5, they were determined to do so.
As we said at the start, they wanted to make an example of Crystal Palace, I think, in this game. I mean, as you say, Hinchelwood clears off the line from Jimmy Case. I mean, the Hansen booking is magnificent. I mean, it's a mastermind foul. I've started, so I'll finish. He's so late on the British that it's well, I've made the effort. I might as well chopping him off after all. It's a good effort from Peter Nicholas from 25 yards.
It is. Smashes
against the bar, which would have been. I mean, it would have been nice consolation for him, but I think it would have been a misleading scoreline 3-1. I mean, they had just never in the game, and then in the final seconds in injury time, I think the referee takes pity on Vince Hilaire, who fairly clearly handles the ball in his own area, yeah. But the referee waves things on and it just ends the game.
You've all suffered enough. And talking racism, well, there is a few instances of Hilaire being barracked from at Anfield today. It has to be said, which we will always flag up these instances as we go along. There's some great aftermatch, interviews. Again, Gerald Sinstad is with the microphone. He asked Terry McDermott, who's increasingly confident of Liverpool's hopes for the remainder of the season. Sinstad asks McDermott his thoughts on Palace, and McDermott declares that he was disappointed with them. There's also a great interview with Kenny Dalglish, in which I think is it Elton Wellesby actually does these rather than Gerald Sinstad. And there's this young Paul Dalglish along with him who takes exception to the microphone at one point when being asked a question himself. And Wellesby eventually turns around and says that he could understand Paul better than he could Kenny. Brave promo there from Elton Wellesby.
Yes. There'll be no further interviews over the course of this season. Terry McDermott he looks like a man who's desperately trying not to say, and that's basically the championship over, lads.
Yeah, there is very much an element of that, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, two more points for Liverpool. 3 more goals, 2 more points. But Manchester United at Highfield Road managed to keep pace with Liverpool. There's a degree of luck as well at hand for Manchester United. I would say they persevere their way to a win here. There's some fine football played by Coventry at times. This is where kind of Elton Wellesby in the kickoff match declares that Manchester United are the least favoured of the top 3 to go on and win the title, which speaks of what we were saying earlier on about Crystal Palace being deemed a more likely challenger. There's a lot of pressure that Manchester United have to withstand in the early exchanges. But they come on strong in the second half. They managed to do at Highfield Road what Crystal Palace at different ends of the spectrum really where these two teams are and what their expectations are. But they do have to weather a storm in the first half there before they come through and win this game.
Coventry are the better side probably in the first half. I mean, Ian Wallace has a good shot on the turn. Gary Bailey makes 2 or 3 good saves to the point where the crowd starts singing "There's only one Gary Bailey," presumably led by Stu Horsfield somewhere in the crowd. Gary Bailey disappointingly wearing gloves at last at this stage of the season, but he makes a couple of really good saves. Gary Gillespie flicks a volley just wide, and not a great deal happening. But Coventry are the team that's making it happen. Really, if anything's going on, and we can tell it was a fairly pedestrian first half because there's hardly any highlights from the first half.
Yeah, that's very low.
From the second. Interestingly, Hugh Johns, an early adopter of the phrase "early doors," that seems to be going off at half time. I wonder if he was the man who invented it, perhaps. Yeah,
maybe he could well have been. I mean, even into the early exchange of the second half, Martin Buchan denies McDonald. So Coventry again. On the front foot clearly in the early exchanges, and the limited amount of footage we get makes it look like Manchester United scored against the run of play. It's McQueen back post finish. Lee Macari is involved. Joe Jordan, Jimmy Nicol. It's his cross, and McQueen who's back after missing 6 games, just short of the hour mark. Manchester United make this breakthrough. From what we see, it is very much against the run of play.
And it's a nice goal as well, actually. I mean, Jimmy.
It is a nice goal. Yeah,
comes forward from right back and passes it into Macari. It's a clever dummy from Macari. Jordan gives Nicol the ball back. He plays it across to Gordon McQueen, who from centre half has come galloping forward. From an open play move. He's not sort of still up there from a free kick or a corner or anything. He's up there from open play, and he's at the back post. He sort of stabs it in from, as Hugh Johns points out, an unlucky 13 minutes into the second half.
Absolutely. I mean, given Gary Bailey's fine first half display, there is a moment where he almost throws the ball into Stu will be mighty relieved to hear of this. There is a moment where Bailey nearly throws the ball into his own net. Jimmy Nicol clears it. It's a Tommy Hutchison cross. Bailey's under pressure from Mick Ferguson, the uncompromising Mick Ferguson, and somehow Bailey almost throws the ball into the back of his own net, Dave.
It's a magnificent bit of football. Tommy Hutchinson, in those days, what we used to call a jinking run. Nobody jinks anymore, but in those days, that was a jinking run. Good cross, actually. And Bailey's at full stretch, and then somehow, as he comes down, sort of throws it over the back of his head towards the goal. Unfortunately, there's Jimmy Nicol to clear things away, but no, almost blotted the Bailey copybook there.
He did, and he would have taken a lot of heat off Shilton from 7 days early in the goal he conceded against Palace had that gone over the line. From the resultant corner, Steve Hunt puts the ball into the side netting, and I think it's with that, from what we see of it, that's where Coventry kind of lose a bit of hope, because it's 2-0 before too long. Coppell's headed a golden opportunity wide just prior to this goal, and this is the tipping point of the game, really. So you've had this moment where Bailey's almost thrown in the equaliser. You've had Coppell put this header wide that is, I don't know, a prototype of Keegan's header wide against Spain in the 1982 World Cup, and then you've got it's again excellent work. Everything that's good at what Manchester United seem to be doing in this has a bit of Lou Macari involved in it. There's Joe Jordan and Mickey Thomas are involved in this one as well. And again, Bailey saves at the feet of Hunt on the edge of the area, very, very brave, kind of like one of these. It's a lost type of save. There's a team breaks through, high defensive line, out comes the goalkeeper and dives at the feet of the attacker. You don't see too many of these instances anymore, but this is one of those of its era. But Coppell makes amends. It's 2-0. Again, fine work from Macari. And it's a free header on the 6-yard line. It's his 9th goal of the season, Dave.
Good return from Lou Macari. I mean,
isn't it?
Early on in the series, I was, if I thought back to 1979, I would have been thinking that Lou Macari was on the way out at that stage. But no, he was still very much a part of things at Manchester United. He had a particularly good game in this one. But it's a great run from Steve Coppell, gets to the byline and pulls the cross back. And here we are 50 years later nearly. And that's still the hardest thing to defend against that there is. Somebody gets to the byline and pulls a good cross back. It always causes chaos. And it amazes me how rarely teams try it. They want to pass through you now and pass through a crowded defensive line. Get the ball out wide, get to the byline, knock it back. Defenders are facing the wrong way. They don't know what to do. The goalkeeper's all over the place. And that's how this goal happens. It's a very simple goal. But it's how do you stop it? Once Steve Coppell's got to that byline and put a good cross in, you can't stop it, can you? Lou Macari knows what he wants to do. He's facing the right way. Bang, 2-0.
Absolutely. So it's very much a story of missed opportunity for Coventry and Manchester United punishing them at Highfield Road. Ferguson does get one back for Coventry, Hutchison cross. And again, a very mixed day for Gary Bailey. He should do better with this. He's pulled off some magnificent saves. He's almost thrown one in the back of the net, and he really should keep out the goal that Coventry do get. It's a reassuring Gary Bailey performance today.
Yes, they used to call it the curate's egg, didn't they? I mean, it's the one where he got a touch, and you say he gets a touch as though he's made a good save. This is Chris Packett hands, really. I mean, he's got a touch to it and does absolutely nothing with it at all. We can hear Stu Horsfield at home cheering now as Coventry have scored to make it 2-1.
A quick nod towards the Tottenham Villa game, Dave. 2-1 to Villa. We got footage of the goals here. A mixed day for Geddes. He gets his first goal for Aston Villa, but he has a badly injured ankle 10 minutes from the end. Gordon Cowans makes it 2 from the penalty spot. Brian Little brought down by Barry Daines, who's reclaimed his place from Alex Alexic. A rare error from Steve Perriman as part of that. And Ardiles gets one back for Tottenham in the second half, but it's not enough. Not shown on the footage, there's a Chris Hughton cross that hits the inside of Rimmer's post. It rolls along the line to safety. Villa would have been seemingly hard done by had the equaliser gone in. It's an interesting one at Villa Park, Dave, because you've got Tottenham who've made that poor start to the season, have climbed back up the table to the point that they're feeling like they're in the title race. And then they're doing very Tottenham things in the way that that's just about close enough. We don't need to be any closer. Let's go back to a bit of inconsistency.
Yeah, I mean, Villa, the 2 Villa goals are nicely worked, particularly the first one. I mean, Brian Little, it's a really good back heel from from Little onto Shaw, and then David Geddes crashes it in from the edge of the box. And Little again is the one who's sort of prowling for the second goal. As you say, a terrible back pass from Steve Perryman, and Little's onto it and gets pulled down. I mean, Villa were just beginning, having lost Andy Gray, they were just beginning to come out of that period then and starting to put together some of the team that would go on and win the league. A couple of years later on, it's amazing how quickly that comes together, and how many of this team, Gray's gone, Little will go with injury. John Gidman, who we'll see shortly at Everton, so it's a big transition at Villa, done very, very quickly, and then they become league champions the following season. It's an amazing turnaround, really.
It is. A rundown of the rest of the First Division results of the day. Ipswich are 1-0 winners. The resurgent Ipswich. They win at Bolton Wanderers, Alan Brazil, shortly before half-time. Brighton 0, Stoke 0. As we've mentioned, Manchester United 2-1 winners at Coventry. Leeds 3-0 winners at home to Wolves. Liverpool have dismantled Crystal Palace at Anfield 3-0. It could have been double the score. Manchester City have got a rare win, Dave. Romac must be out doing his Christmas shopping. They've defeated Derby County. Goals from Robinson Henry and a Dave Webb own goal. Norwich City 2-0 winners at home to Bristol City. Nottingham Forest of Middlesbrough postponed. Southampton 1-0 winners at the Dell against Everton. Bowyer getting another goal to add to his collection. Villa's 2-1 win at Tottenham. And West Brom, you've got a 2-2 draw at home to Arsenal, Dave. You were twice ahead, all the goals in the first half. Brian Robson after 29. Sammy Nelson equalises on 38. John Truick puts West Brom ahead again 2 minutes later. But within a minute, Frank Stapleton has equalised 3 goals in 4 minutes there, Dave. Quite the game at the Hawthorns.
Yes, could have gone home with half time now, basically. Albion never beat Arsenal, hardly ever in those days. Actually, hardly ever since either. But no, a draw would have been a moral victory over Arsenal, really. But I think Manchester City, dare we say it, are going to start to improve a little bit. I think it's Everton who we've got to look at as being the problem team for the next few weeks.
Exactly. And Manchester City's win has put them above Everton in the table. Liverpool's win against Palace, Manchester United's 2 points gained at Coventry has now opened up a 5-point detachment to third placed Arsenal now, who are on 23 points along with Crystal Palace. We've got Norwich and Wolves on 22. On 21, it's Southampton, Aston Villa and Spurs, Nottingham Forest. Early pace setters drifting towards mid-table, Dave. At the bottom, Bolton are now 7 points adrift of safety. We've got Brighton on 13, Derby on 15, and just outside the bottom 3, it's Bristol City on 17, with Stoke, Ipswich and Everton, along with West Brom, all on 18. It's 3 points clear of the drop zone. And then in that mid-table no man's zone at the minute, it's Coventry, Leeds, Middlesbrough and Manchester City, who must be quite pleased to be in that no man's zone after what's been going on in recent months. Though.
It's hard to believe they've managed to climb so high up the table, given what perhaps we've been unkind. Perhaps we've just seen them on their bad weeks. Maybe, I don't know, on television. But for them to have accumulated that many points seems like something of a miracle, frankly.
It does indeed. Brilliant, Dave. That's been our First Division look. Subsection Module 1.13, December the 15th, 1979. For paragraph 2, do join us for Second Division action and a second round FA Cup roundup as well. We'll try and get some news headlines in there as well. All that leaves me to do is say thank you for listening. Do subscribe where you can and spread the word. This has been 1979-80 Revisited under the banner of Your Boys Took Hell of a Beating. Thank you and goodbye.